He looked me dead in the eyes and uttered it as if asking for salt. "We have no room for you." I smiled, nodded, and walked away without a word. What he didn't know. By tomorrow morning, his entire world would crumble, and I'd be the one holding the hammer. Before I spill the shocking truth, do yourself a favor. Hit that like button, drop a comment with your city, and subscribe now. Trust me, you do not want to miss this jaw-dropping tale of betrayal and ultimate justice. This isn't just a story, it's a masterclass in quiet vengeance. My name is Evelyn, and this is how it all began. My life, as I knew it, shattered the day I packed 2 old suitcases, a folded blanket from my former room, and a framed, faded photo of my late husband, John. I remember the weight of that day like it was yesterday. The day I handed my son, James, the last $180,000 from John's life insurance. My hand didn't even tremble. "This is for your future," I told him, my voice steady, though my heart ached with a lifetime of unspoken goodbyes. He had just married Mary, a woman whose smile could charm birds from trees, and they were desperate for a 4-bedroom house in a quiet suburb just outside Sacramento. The bank wouldn't give them the full loan, so I, ever the dutiful mother, stepped in. Mary hugged me like we were in a furniture commercial, her eyes sparkling. "We'll never forget this, darling. You'll always have a place with us." James kissed my cheek and promised I'd never have to lift another finger again. Oh, if only I had known the cruel twist of fate awaiting me. The house itself was a stark, modern monument to their ambition, all white, echoing rooms, cold gray floors, and a kitchen so pristine it looked like no one had ever even boiled water, let alone burned an egg. My assigned room was downstairs, a modest guest room with no closet, a double bed, and a small bathroom, lacking even a shower. Yet I swallowed my complaints. It was a small price to pay, I thought, to hear the sounds of life in the house again, the comforting hum of a family. In those first few days, James would meticulously brew my coffee, and Mary, with a strained patience, showed me how to operate the Wi-Fi thermostat. But her patience wore thin quickly, especially when I dared to ask for help. Once, and only once, did we all eat dinner together at that gleaming, showroom-like kitchen island. By the second week, the cracks began to show. Small, insidious things. Passive-aggressive comments, like whispers in the night. Mary would laugh with her friends, her voice carrying through the thin walls, saying, "I'm living with 2 kids and a grandma." I was the grandma. James, my own son, even complained when I innocently asked if I could put a small shelf in the laundry room for my meager belongings. Then came the small changes, each one a tiny chip at my dignity. They installed a lock on the top refrigerator. Mary, with a straight face, claimed it was for her special diet. They moved the router into James's office, suddenly cutting off my Netflix for 3 agonizing days. Little did they know, these small slights were fueling a fire they couldn't possibly imagine. One night, unable to sleep, I heard Mary on the phone in the kitchen. Her voice was low, conspiratorial. "She's sweet," she conceded, "but we need our own lives. This isn't working." I froze, my blood turning to ice. I stayed silent, continued mindlessly cooking, folding towels, polishing the already spotless kitchen counters. I gave them space, I told myself. I even forced a smile when Mary announced her plans to convert the downstairs study, my only private space, into a nursery. But then, the real horror unfolded. One morning, on my way to the kitchen for a quiet cup of tea, I heard James's voice, cold and clinical. "She won't leave if we're nice. We have to make her leave without a fight." Mary's reply sent shivers down my spine, a truly chilling echo in the sterile house. "She won't give up her share if she's not uncomfortable. Make her feel bad. Then she'll go on her own." I stood motionless, staring at the wallpaper I had helped them choose just days before, its pattern now a dizzying swirl of betrayal. My son. My only son. He was meticulously planning my eviction from the very house I had helped him buy. All for a nursery. For more space. For their convenience. If you think you know how this ends, you're dead wrong. The real story is far more shocking. That night, with a hollow ache in my chest, I cooked chicken Alfredo, James's absolute favorite. A silent offering. But no one came down. Mary claimed she had already eaten. James mumbled something about work and stayed cloistered upstairs. I sat alone, eating slowly, each bite a bitter reminder of every sacrifice I had made for him. The scraped knees from soccer games, the triumphant discovery of a lost baby tooth, frantic hospital runs, endless hours of tutoring for college entrance exams. I still cherish every crudely drawn birthday card he made me as a child, tucked away in a shoebox I carry with me everywhere. And now I was nothing but an obstacle, a problem to be neatly disposed of. The next morning, as I was rinsing strawberries under the cold tap, Mary walked in, her arms crossed, a predatory glint in her eyes. "Darling," she purred, "we're thinking it's time you found your own place, somewhere more comfortable for you." James entered a minute later, sipping coffee, utterly nonchalant, as if discussing the weather. "There's no room for you here, Mom. You need to go," he said, not even glancing in my direction. I slowly dried my hands with a dish towel, turned to face both of them, and smiled. Not a fake, heartbroken smile, but a calm, knowing one. "All right," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "I'll leave tonight." Mary's jaw dropped. James, ever the pragmatist, simply nodded, as if checking off an item on his to-do list. "Thanks, Mom," he said, turning away. I went in my room, calmly packing my clothes, John's photo, an unfinished book, and a red folder I always kept hidden in my suitcase. It wasn't just any folder. It was the house deed. My name was inscribed right there, next to James's. I owned a full 49% of that pristine, echoey prison. I called a taxi, and without a single backward glance, I left. But they had no idea. This house wasn't just their dream, it was their ticking time bomb, and I had already flicked the switch. The taxi ride to the motel was eerily quiet. I sat in the back, clutching the red folder like a fragile newborn, holding it so tightly a corner left a deep imprint on my hand. I had booked the room a week ago, not because I thought I'd need it, but because a tiny, insistent voice inside me had whispered, "Prepare." The motel was clean, almost clinically so, yet bleak. Old, worn carpet, a single flickering lamp that wobbled precariously with the slightest touch, and the persistent, nauseating scent of fried onions clinging to the very walls. I paid cash for 3 nights, explicitly requesting no cleaning service. I didn't want anyone to see how little I had, how utterly stripped bare I felt. That night, I lay on the hard bed, the red folder pressed tightly to my chest like a shield, the TV off, my gaze fixed on the stained ceiling. I wasn't angry, surprisingly. Not even shocked. It had simply happened. The next morning, armed with a strange sense of purpose, I used the motel's business center to print 5 crisp copies of the house deed. 1 for me, 1 for an attorney, and 3 more, just in case I needed irrefutable proof of my power. I was on my 2nd cup of stale motel coffee when the phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something, a flicker of intuition, urged me to answer. "Miss Karsten," a crisp voice inquired. "My name is Bernard. I work for North American Private Loans. You're listed as a co-owner of a property at 124 Oakwood Street." My heartbeat, which had been racing since dawn, slowly began to normalize. "Yes," I replied, my voice steady, betraying none of the turmoil within. "Is there a problem?" Bernard cleared his throat, a small, apologetic sound. "There's a default, Miss Karsten. Your son, Mr. James Karsten, took out a business loan for $400,000, using the house as collateral. He hasn't made payments for months. We've sent 3 notices. He's in severe default. If the loan isn't settled, foreclosure proceedings begin this Friday." I remained calm, a strange, steely resolve settling over me. I asked precise questions, gathering every scrap of information. James, it turned out, had poured the money into a fly-by-night marketing startup that had spectacularly folded after just 3 months. Mary either genuinely didn't know about it or, more likely, was a master actress. Both possibilities turned my stomach. Bernard was polite, almost deferential, but his message was brutally clear. I had exactly 3 options. Pay the astronomical loan, allow the foreclosure to proceed, or sign over my share and permit the sale. I asked him to email me all the detailed paperwork. When the documents arrived, a thick stack of legalese, I printed them out. I retrieved the same worn blue pen I had used to sign James's first school permission slip and slowly, deliberately, signed my name on each damning line. Then I scanned the documents and sent them back. Bernard called an hour later to confirm receipt. "The foreclosure will proceed," he said, his voice tinged with a hint of something I couldn't quite decipher. Pity? Admiration? "Thank you, Miss Karsten." I said nothing, simply hung up, turned off my cell phone, and sat in absolute stillness. James, my beloved son, would soon feel the icy grip of eviction without a single warning. Their carefully constructed world was about to collapse, and I was the architect of its downfall. I told no one. I posted nothing. I shed no tears. I didn't call my sister to vent, nor did I whisper a word in the ears of the church group. I simply sat in that motel room, bathing in the silence I hadn't experienced in years. Later, I walked 2 short blocks to a small convenience store, bought a tub of peanut butter cookies, a jar of instant coffee, and a small, celebratory bottle of wine. That night, I raised the cheap plastic cup, toasting myself. Not out of raw, bitter revenge, and certainly not because I felt I had won. But because, in that quiet, solitary moment, I finally understood, they no longer saw me as family. It was time to start treating myself like someone worth having. The very next morning, my phone buzzed with a text from James. "Did you do something with the house? We got a weird letter from a lender." I didn't reply. 3 agonizing hours later, another text. "There's a notice stuck to the door. Call me." I ignored it. At precisely 3:17 p.m., Mary tried. "Darling, please, we're so confused. Tell us what's going on." I turned off my cell phone, not out of cruelty, but because I needed to maintain my composure. One more saccharine plea from the woman who had plotted my erasure, and I feared I might lose my carefully constructed calm, forgetting that sometimes silence is the most devastating weapon of all. The foreclosure notice arrived with shocking speed. Less than 48 hours after I signed those papers, the sheriff's department slapped a bright orange eviction notice on the door of the Oakwood Street house. I didn't witness it myself, but I didn't need to. Mary, in a desperate, frantic frenzy, posted in the neighborhood Facebook group, "Urgent. Our house is part of a scam. If anyone knows any foreclosure lawyers, please send me info." The sheer, delicious irony of it all made me laugh aloud for the first time in days. I sat on the motel bed, sipping coffee from a styrofoam cup, quietly watching their meticulously crafted world crumble. The comments poured in, ex-colleagues, neighbors, even Dennis, a college friend of James. "What happened? Do you need help? I thought you were doing so well." Mary's replies were carefully crafted, evasive, like a seasoned politician's. Never concrete, only vague allusions. "Someone we trusted betrayed us. Someone who was supposed to protect us." That's when the amusement faded, replaced by a growing unease. Within hours, my phone was deluged with messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years. My cousin Sarah, a kind woman from my old church, John's sister. All asking the same anxious question, "Darling, what's wrong?" Mary had masterfully painted a picture of betrayal, as if I had, out of pure malice, sought to destroy their lives. She conveniently omitted the massive sum I had given them, their calculated efforts to force me out, and the colossal, secret loan James had taken out, using the house as collateral. No, she was the innocent victim. James was even worse. He posted an old photo of himself at 5, a charming, angelic child, both of us eating ice cream on a sunny curb. The caption twisted the knife. "It hurts when the people who raised you turn their backs on you." No names, no tags, just pure, unadulterated manipulation. But I knew exactly who it was meant for. Family, acquaintances, outsiders. They would all fill in the blanks with assumptions of my guilt and shame. They were erasing me in real time. I considered fighting back, uploading the deed, the loan letters, the incriminating messages. But then I remembered my father's wise, old saying, "Don't wrestle with pigs in the mud. You'll just get dirty, and they enjoy it." So I remained silent. Until the call came. It was from the sheriff's office. A kind, polite man named Mr. Roberts. "Miss Karsten," he said, his voice reassuring, "just a courtesy call. The official eviction at Oakwood Street is scheduled for Friday at 10 a.m. You don't need to be there since you've signed everything. We just wanted to inform you." I thanked him, asked no further questions. Yet that night, sleep eluded me. I vividly imagined the scene, James at the door, disheveled in sweatpants. Mary weeping on the sidewalk, their meager belongings spilling from trash bags onto the manicured lawn. Still, I felt no joy, no triumph, only a profound, almost spiritual calm within me. They had, with their own hands, made every decision that led them to this precipice. On Friday, I stayed at the motel, microwaved a bowl of oatmeal, and waited. At precisely 10:42 a.m., my phone vibrated. Unknown number. Voicemail. I listened to it once, then again. James's voice, low and simmering with fury. "I don't know what you did, but they threw us out. It's over. You destroyed us, Mom. I hope you're happy." That was it. No apology, no remorse, just a torrent of blame, as if I had accidentally knocked over a vase, when in fact, they had meticulously set the trap themselves. By noon, a longer, more theatrical message arrived from Mary. "Darling, if your goal was to hurt us, then congratulations. They're evicting us. I hope you sleep well tonight. You destroyed your family." The word family echoed in my head all day, a bitter, ironic refrain, as if it belonged only to them, as if I had no right to detach myself from people who treated me like a disposable doormat. I turned off my phone, went to the corner store, and bought a plain notebook. On the first page, in bold, decisive strokes, I wrote, "Today, they lost everything." With those words, I found my peace. I sat on the bed, turned to the next page, and continued writing. But they were not done. 2 days after the eviction, Mary unleashed a lengthy Instagram story. 10 meticulously curated images, pastel backgrounds, flowing, ornate script. The title screamed, "When Family Betrays You." Each image spun her twisted version of events, a masterclass in calculated victimhood. They claimed they had opened their home, out of boundless love and generosity, to a sad, widowed mother, only to be met with fraud and legal manipulation. She brazenly labeled it elder abuse. The comments were a vicious torrent. Strangers, people who knew nothing of the truth, wrote, "Some parents just want to control their kids forever. That's why you need boundaries. You're so strong, Mary. Sending you love." I scrolled further, my eyes fixating on James's comment. "You did everything right. You protected our future." She destroyed it. I stared at it for a long, painful minute. Not because it hurt anymore, but because I couldn't comprehend how effortlessly he could lie. This was the same child who once cried if I scolded him for a broken glass. And now he was painting me as a monster to strangers on the internet. Still, I remained silent. I didn't respond. But I wasn't going to sit idly by. The very next day, a soft knock echoed on the motel room door. I didn't move immediately. Life had taught me that a moment's hesitation could be your greatest protector. After a second, more insistent knock, I opened the door a crack. It was a woman, perhaps in her late 50s, who looked vaguely familiar. "Evelyn Karsten?" she asked. "You probably don't remember me. I'm Doris. I work for the City Housing Authority. I saw some posts online, and I wanted to hear your side." I blinked, then nodded slowly. We settled into the motel lobby, lukewarm coffee in hand, the low hum of a vending machine our only companion. I told her everything. Every single dollar, every shared dinner, every subtle act of disrespect I had quietly endured. She didn't take notes, just listened intently, her gaze unwavering. "I'm not a reporter," she said, her voice laced with genuine weariness. "I'm just tired of good people being destroyed by influencers with perfectly matching sofas." Before she left, she pressed her card into my hand. "If you need help finding something stable, call me. I have contacts." It was the first time in weeks, perhaps months, that I felt a genuine spark of kindness. That night, I opened my email account. A message with the subject line, "Interview Request, Sacramento Local Magazine," caught my eye. I closed the laptop without reading further. I wasn't ready to tell my story on their terms. Not yet. But I forwarded the email to myself with a new subject line. Don't forget it. That same week, Mary unleashed a new TikTok video. She stood in front of a rented moving truck, her mascara streaking dramatically, her baby bump prominently displayed, holding a cardboard sign that screamed, "My mother-in-law kicked me out of my house." The video exploded, garnering nearly 80,000 views in 2 days. News channels were tagged in the comments. A woman, her heart bleeding for Mary, even started a GoFundMe campaign. Then, the ultimate test, a message from the pastor of my old church. "Evelyn, everything okay? Can I call you?" That was it. The final, fracturing straw. I pulled out every shred of evidence. The house deed, the bank statement confirming my $180,000 transfer, Bernard's email confirming the foreclosure, and damning screenshots of Mary's message. "Once she's gone, we can plan the nursery." I sent everything to the pastor, my cousins, the women's group at church. I wrote nothing in the body of the email, just attached the undeniable proof. 5 minutes later, my niece's reply popped up. "Oh my God. They lied to all of us." Then silence. No one defended them. No one said a word. But I knew. I knew they had seen it. I knew that fragile thread of loyalty had snapped. That night, a new message from James. "Please call me. I just want to talk." 10 minutes later, another. "I know it got ugly, but you're still my mom." I didn't reply. Not out of hatred, but because some bridges don't incinerate in an instant. They crumble slowly, piece by painful piece, each time someone you love treats you like refuse. I stared at the phone for a long, quiet moment, then blocked him and put it away. I lay down on the motel bed and whispered into the stillness, "Yes, I'm still your mom, but I'm no longer your victim." For the first time in years, I slept a full 8 hours. It all began with a bouquet of flowers. Pristine white lilies, the kind I used to buy from the grocery store as a teenager when I needed to apologize for crashing the car or flunking a test. They sat outside the motel door in a cheap glass vase, accompanied by a handwritten note, "Let's talk, please." No name, just those words. I didn't touch them, didn't bring them inside, left them to wilt in the sun all night. By morning, they were a pathetic, brown mess. The receptionist, a kind young man, asked if he should dispose of them. "Yes," I said, a faint smile touching my lips. In the afternoon, James arrived unannounced. He knocked at 2 p.m., his voice hushed, almost pleading. "Mom, it's me. Can we talk?" I peered through the peephole for a long time. He looked utterly exhausted, pale, as if he hadn't slept in days. Against every fiber of my being, I opened the door a crack. "5 minutes," I said. He nodded, like a child granted a second chance. We sat at the small, round table by the window, each on opposing sides. I waited, curious to see which version of him would emerge. In the end, it was the quiet, remorseful one. "I messed up," he finally confessed, his voice barely a whisper. "I should have told you about the loan. I never should have let Mary talk to you like that." I panicked. I remained silent, my face a mask of neutrality. He added, as if this explained everything, "She's pregnant." We were scared. I looked at him, truly looked. For a fleeting moment, I saw the vulnerable child who used to cry when I left for work at night. But he wasn't that child anymore. He was a man who had ruthlessly pushed me out of my own investment, and then, with sickening audacity, painted me as a monster on social media. "I'm not here to argue," he said, shifting uncomfortably. "I just wanted to know if you'd be willing to sign a paper. Nothing bad, just something to help us get back on track with the bank." That's when my stomach lurched. He hadn't changed. He hadn't come in peace. He still saw me as a mere tool, a lever to be pulled when he was in a bind. "Show it to me," I said, my voice flat. He hesitated, then pulled a manila folder from under his arm and handed me the document. I read it once, then again. It wasn't a simple form. It was a cunningly disguised power of attorney, riddled with confusing legal jargon. It would grant him limited rights to manage the foreclosure, yes, but it also, insidiously, allowed access to my accounts, including my carefully protected retirement fund. I placed the paper on the table. "Get out," I said, my voice rising slightly. He blinked, stunned. Mom, out. He stood up slowly, as if a final plea might somehow sway me. We're losing the baby's future, Mom. I met his gaze directly. You already lost that future. He walked out without another word. I closed the door, locked it, and stood there until the tremors in my hands finally subsided. After that, I called the front desk and requested a different room, different floor, different hallway. They didn't ask why. I packed in 15 minutes flat and moved before dinner. That night, I blocked James's number, not out of anger, but because I needed to protect the fragile part of me that still wanted to believe him, the part that clung to the hope that he genuinely regretted his actions. The next morning, I arrived at the housing authority, Doris's card clutched in my hand. She looked up from her desk and smiled, a warm, knowing smile, as if she had been expecting me. I told her I wanted to move forward, not just away from them, but away from everything that had come before. She didn't offer empty platitudes like, "I'm proud of you," or "You're doing the right thing." She simply slid a folder across the table. On the cover, in elegant script, it read, "Coastal Housing Options for Seniors." On the very first page was a 2-bedroom apartment near Santa Monica, with a charming veranda, an ocean view, and a rent I could comfortably afford on my pension. I circled it, a sense of quiet triumph swelling within me. "This one," I said. That night, a final email arrived from Mary. No emojis, no histrionics, just a few direct, chilling words. "I don't know what we're going to do now. We have nothing. I know you hate me, but think about the baby." I stared at the screen for a long, agonizing moment. The words squeezed my chest, a phantom pain. I closed the laptop, made myself a cup of soothing tea, and watched the sunset from the motel parking lot, the sky ablaze with the colors of a new beginning. I didn't reply. Not yet. Because what I was about to do wasn't an answer. It was a reckoning. For 3 days, there was an unnerving silence. Then, on Sunday at precisely 7:04 p.m., a soft knock. I was in my pajamas, sipping a half-finished cup of peppermint tea. I peered through the peephole. It was Mary, her hair even more disheveled than usual, a baby swaddled in a pink blanket clutched tightly in her arms, a designer diaper bag slung over her shoulder like a desperate peace offering. "Darling," she whispered, her voice cracking, "I don't want to fight. We don't know what to do anymore. James is utterly broken. They threw us out of the apartment. We failed the credit check. Please, can I come in?" I opened the door a few inches. Her makeup was smeared, her eyes swollen and red. The baby, a tiny girl, stirred lightly, emitting a soft whimper. Mary swayed her gently. "Her name is Emily," she whispered, her voice laced with desperate hope. "She belongs to you too. Please, don't leave us out here." That hit me harder than I expected. I hadn't even known the baby's name. I hadn't wanted to. I opened the door wider and let them in. She stepped in slowly, as if unsure of her right to be there. She looked around the motel room, a tired smile gracing her lips. "You still like the room cool, don't you?" I didn't reply. She carefully sat on the edge of the bed, gently rocking Emily in her arms. "We messed up," she said, finally. "I said things I didn't mean. We were stressed, scared." I nodded, not because I had forgiven her, but because I wanted her to continue. "James is too proud to admit it," she went on, her voice cracking, "but he's drowning. Both of us. Our accounts are frozen. We owe over $10,000 in fees and interest. Even our phones don't work anymore, and I genuinely don't know what we're going to do." I watched her, observing every nuance, the trembling of her lower lip, the frequent blinking as she spoke of her utter helplessness in a world spiraling out of control. And then I saw it. The diaper bag. It still had the price tag attached. I stepped closer and saw the designer baby logo, a high-end brand from a catalog I'd seen in the motel lobby. It cost over $900. "That's new," I said, pointing to it. Mary hesitated. "A gift," she said quickly, "from a friend." I said nothing, just slowly rose and walked to the window. From there, I could see a rented car. A black SUV. Not cheap. Not run down. Definitely not the car of someone in utter desperation. "You came here to pick something up," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. She flinched. I came here to ask for help, she replied. I didn't correct her. Are you here to record something? I spun around quickly. Where is it? Your phone? Your bag? Whatever it is. I saw it in the side pocket when you sat down. Are you recording this? She opened her mouth, then fell silent. We just wanted evidence, she said softly, her voice barely a whisper, in case you twisted the story. I stared at her for a long, silent minute. Get out, I said, my voice now laced with a cold fury. Darling. I opened the door wide and pointed to the designer diaper bag. Take your precious baby's gift and go. She didn't move, so I stepped closer, my anger finally reaching a boiling point. Listen, Mary. Let me be perfectly clear. I am not your story, not your villain, and most definitely not your ATM. Get out of my room before I call the police. She slowly lifted Emily, clutching her tightly. She's your granddaughter, she pleaded. I didn't reply. She's your daughter. Raise her better than you treat other human beings. Mary walked out stiffly, got into the car, and was gone in a matter of seconds. I closed the door, locked it, and sat motionless on the bed for a long time. My hands trembled again, but not from fear. It was the rush of adrenaline, the undeniable knowledge of exactly what had transpired. Mary had come to provoke me, to bait me into saying something ugly, something they could edit and upload to garner pity. And I hadn't given it to them. I remained calm, but the battle was far from over. The next day, I went to court and filed for a restraining order. I submitted every single piece of evidence, the messages, their transparent manipulation attempts, their visit, even a screenshot of the ludicrous price tag on Mary's new diaper bag. The court clerk, a jaded woman with tired eyes, was unsurprised. You're not the first, she said, and you certainly won't be the last. That night, I wrote a single, powerful line in my notebook. They brought a baby to portray themselves as victims. I brought proof. Then I turned the page and began a new list. People I trust, people I don't, and people to whom I owe nothing more. Because next time they came knocking, I would be ready, and they wouldn't see it coming. The restraining order arrived 2 days later. A thick envelope, bearing the official court stamp, slid under my motel room door like the final piece of a grim puzzle. I felt no triumphant surge, only a sense of quiet preparation. The calm before a storm. Not from fear, but because I had already battened down all the hatches. I made 5 meticulous copies of the order. One for the motel, one for the local police department, one for Doris at the housing authority, one for myself, and one, and signed and without a letter, I mailed to Mary and James's last known address. I simply taped a note to it. You wanted something legal? Here it is. That night, I finally replied to the interview request from Sacramento Local. I didn't demand money. I didn't weave a sob story to elicit sympathy. Instead, I sent everything. The house deed, the undeniable proof of the $180,000, the foreclosure confirmation, the damning message screenshots, and, for good measure, a photo of Mary's brand new, ridiculously expensive diaper bag. The subject line was chillingly simple. If you want to talk, we'll talk. The editor called the next day, her voice high-pitched with barely contained excitement, yet undeniably friendly. We believe you, she said, her voice full of conviction. Would you be willing to make this official? I said yes, but under one crucial condition, a single line, my line at the very beginning of the article. This is not revenge, I dictated. This is clarity. The article appeared the following Sunday, 3 full pages, splashed across the local news. The title screamed, When Help Becomes a Weapon, a Mother's Story of Financial Betrayal. It didn't instantly go viral, it didn't crash websites, but it sent ripples through the Sacramento community. People weren't just gossiping, they were having serious, uncomfortable discussions about ethics in real estate, inheritance rights, the murky boundaries of adult children's claims. My name appeared, not as a monster or a victim, but as a person. Someone who had been erased and was slowly, defiantly, becoming visible again. But the moment, the exact, profound moment I knew everything had truly changed, came the following Friday. I was in a charming little coffee shop, enjoying a quiet afternoon when I saw James. He was alone, hunched at a corner table, cloaked in a hoodie, his gaze fixed on his coffee cup as if searching for his own reflection in the frothy surface. He didn't see me at first. I almost walked past, but then he looked up. Our eyes met across the crowded room. He made no gesture, offered no greeting, didn't even blink. He simply stared. And in that raw, unguarded gaze, I understood everything. There was no regret. No shame. Just an infinite, desolate distance, as if he finally acknowledged that the bond between us had ceased to exist. I walked on, not a single tear falling. That night, an email arrived from him, no subject line, just a brief, unsettling text. I read the article. I won't contact you anymore. I'm sorry you felt you had no other choice. I don't regret what I did. I'm sorry. I had to say something. I archived it without a reply. The next morning, the motel manager brought a stack of forwarded letters. At the very bottom was an envelope bearing the logo of a prestigious real estate agency and a handwritten note from Doris. You're approved. The keys are waiting. I opened the apartment paperwork, a delightful 2-bedroom apartment, second floor, with a breathtaking water view in a serene complex in Santa Monica, specifically for seniors and veterans. Move-in date, next Friday. The rent fit perfectly within my budget. I stared at the paper, a profound sense of lightness settling over me. I realized I no longer constantly looked over my shoulder, no longer expected an attack. Unknown numbers no longer filled me with dread. I no longer doubted my right to exist without apology. That night, with a calm, decisive hand, I updated my will. I crossed out James's name entirely. Instead, I bequeathed everything to a local women's shelter, a vibrant literacy program, and the animal shelter where I used to volunteer my time. Then I wrote to my lawyer, giving him clear, unequivocal instructions. If anyone dares to challenge this, release everything publicly. I didn't wait for a reply. I knew he would handle it. The very last message came over the weekend, from an unknown number, but I knew instantly who it was. Mary. Just 4 words. We lost everything. Congratulations. I read it once, then deleted it. I didn't reply. I felt nothing. There was nothing left to say. That afternoon, I packed for the final time. Not because I was fleeing, but because, at long last, I had truly arrived. They had started by declaring there was no room for me, and in doing so, they inadvertently proved that I never needed their space to begin with. The apartment, when I finally saw it, was smaller than I had imagined, yet bathed in light. The California sun poured fiercely through the white walls, reflecting off the gleaming laminate floor. I stood in the doorway for a full minute before stepping inside, letting the profound stillness envelop me like a gentle breeze. No yelling from upstairs. No heavy, thudding footsteps. No forced, hollow apologies. Just space. My space. The movers arrived late, so I carried in the most essential items first. My red folder. John's photo. A small suitcase with a change of clothes. The rest could wait in the car. I brewed a cup of tea with the old, reliable kettle that came with the apartment and walked onto the small balcony. The ocean wasn't visible, but I could hear its distant roar, a soothing, rhythmic whisper, and that was enough. That week, my phone remained silent. I didn't open social media. I didn't call anyone to explain my choices. Instead, I unpacked boxes, filled the refrigerator with foods I actually liked, and lovingly watered 2 small plants I had bought from a roadside market. On Wednesday, I took a long, leisurely stroll along the harbor. No one recognized me. No one gave me strange looks. I passed a charming bookstore, a bustling pier, and a quaint fish restaurant where a woman my age was meticulously painting seashells on a folding table. She smiled warmly and offered me one. Choose one that calls to you, she said, her eyes twinkling. I selected a beautiful blue shell, edged with shimmering silver. Good choice, she said, nodding sagely. That one's for people who just let go of something heavy. I thanked her, the warmth of her kindness a balm to my soul, and slipped the shell into my coat pocket. That night, I placed it on the kitchen counter, next to my keys. I named it Peace. Days melted into a week, then 10 days, and slowly, gently, I found my rhythm. coffee at 8 a.m., a brisk walk at 10 a.m., journaling at 3 p.m. I even signed up for an art class that met on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the community room. The teacher, Walter, was a charming man in his early 70s, perpetually sporting suspenders and telling the absolute worst jokes I had ever heard. But by the second class, he already knew my name. One day, he peered at my painting, A Landscape of the Ocean at Dusk, and said, "You paint like someone who has been through something heavy." I simply smiled. Because I had. I never spoke of James, neither with Walter nor with anyone else in the class. The past was carefully wrapped, sealed, and tucked away, and I had no desire to open that box again. Until the letter came. It was handwritten, in James's familiar, hurried script, bearing the stamp of a post office box near Sacramento, with no return address. Inside, just 4 lines, "I know I can't undo what I did. I expect nothing from you. I just want you to know that I'm trying." I named her Emily Evelyn Karsten. I read it twice, folded it carefully, and placed it in the drawer with the old, worthless house deed. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I simply let the words settle, without judgment. That night, I walked barefoot along the beach, listening to the rhythmic roar of the ocean for over an hour. I thought of the little girl who now carried my name, of the man who was once my son, of the small boy who used to bring me wildflowers from the neighbor's garden and cried when I told him they were stolen. That boy no longer exists, but perhaps, just perhaps, somewhere, out of all that he broke, they are building something better. I decided, it is no longer my burden. I turned and walked home, the apartment lights glowing warmly like soft gold. I curled up on the sofa with a blanket and a book. No drama. No frantic emails to address. No agonizing family disputes to resolve. Just the quiet, profound sound of someone who had chosen, definitively, to live in peace, without asking anyone for permission. My phone vibrated one last time before I finally turned it off. Unknown number. No message. I let it ring and whispered the 5 words that had accompanied me since their eviction. There's no room here either. Goodbye. To this day, I don't know what ultimately became of James and Mary. Perhaps they learned a profound lesson. Perhaps not. I only know that I am well. And that truly is enough. That's all for today. What would you have done in my place? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I absolutely love reading your perspectives. And if this story resonated with you, don't miss these other videos. They're full of more shocking real-life tales you won't want to miss.